shoot a whole show with it.
Nope.
It's still
You
there.
didn't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna. Finn, just keep the mic.
Like, to the right of your big tooth. Right there, yeah. It's a C.
Welcome everyone to
I
day
mean, it's a
two.
significant
You
seed.
got it. Yeah, now clean it with your tongue. Clean it with your tongue. Nope, it went back.
Welcome to day two of Singletrack Podcast, Western States
Just
coverage.
brush it with your thumb.
Jim, what do we got going on right now?
Keep it right back with your tongue.
Finn is really struggling to get a giant
There you
seed
go.
out of his teeth.
Got it.
What is
all live?
You know how I know
But
Jim?
with the guidance of Jeff.
You know how I know Jim might be a friend? Is he let me know that I had something in my teeth, and
You have a
friend-
whole team here.
a
to,
friend would not
let
say
you
that.
know
It was like a bad angle. That's what I'm gonna say.
All right, quick station ID. We are here live. This is day two of Singletrack's coverage of Western States, the 2025 edition. We are fortunate to be joined by Jim Walmsley, also returning guest Jeff Colt, obviously trusty colleague Brett Hornig here. A lot of ground to cover. There was a lot of stuff we just talked about offline that we should have had online. Maybe we start with just recounting some of the moments from the battle with Rod last year
Yeah.
between the river and ALT, where you did kind of put that final decisive move on him. But I was laughing about reading Rod's blog, and he remarks on, like, he's talking with Tim, and he's debating with Tim, his pacer, whether, like, you're playing chess with him. And he sees you make this move where you dart off into the trees, down to the river, and he doesn't know what to make of it. Take it away.
Yeah. So I just explained this, but essentially I remember pretty vividly. I thought I was far enough ahead that he wouldn't see me, for one, and two, I'd go into the river and back up. Basically, maybe by the time he caught me, or just a couple steps ahead or behind. And essentially, I went off. There's only one spot where you can hit the big Rucky Chucky River well before the river crossing. And it's deep, it's really cold, so it's pretty nice, especially on really, really hot years. I think I've done it 2 out of the 4 years. Well, 2 out of 6 years. I think I figured it out in 2021 because that was a really, really hot year. And I remember hitting it there, and then actually like went and scouted it the week before the race last year. Broke a couple little blackberry bush sticks for it. But yeah, I thought I would go down to the water and back up and maybe like even still be in the lead. And I was actually he was close enough that I didn't see him pass me. And then by the time I came up, I was like, oh, good, he didn't catch me yet. And then the more I was running, I was like, I don't see him behind me, but I don't see him in front of me. And like, probably I was just as confused as he was actually of just a lost Rod. Like, where did Rod go? And then he had like 2 minutes on me. And hits, like, by the time I started coming up with view of the river, he was already like 3/4 of the way across the river. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, yeah. So I wouldn't have, knowing how it played out, I think it was a net negative, and I wouldn't do it again in that exact situation again.
And to me, that's interesting because we just had Rod in studio an hour ago, and he thought that you felt you were in control the whole time, that you were messing with him, and that there was never a doubt in your mind that you were going to win that race.
I thought I had enough time. So also reflecting on like Rod and I running together, plus because I've never ran with someone late in the race like that together. And then also looking at what everybody talks about going into this year. The reality is still like the pace that I was running last year was pretty different than what Rod was running most of the time. I think the main point was maybe like out of Forest Hill, he had 3 minutes on me. I think I caught him by Cal 1. And then Cal 1 to Cal 2, I just kind of stuck in behind him and Tim because essentially they're just having some conversation, and like it's 2-on-1. I think also if you want to put on an elite bib, you should probably ditch the pacers. Like, we're not here to hold hands anymore. I think the sport's progressed past
Dude, you just made
pacers and
Jeff's
stuff.
day.
So I think,
yeah.
I think, yeah. And then even worse is Black Canyon 100K having pacers. It's an absolute
Heck yeah.
disgrace.
It's
Like,
dangerous
Jim.
out there, man.
it's not dangerous. Elites like can drop out whenever they need to if they push it too hard. Like,
Oh,
the aid stations give you this safety net to go push to your maximum, and like I think at an elite level, like we need to get beyond that. As far as participants and this and that, like there's still very much a safety issue. It's better to bring a friend, and it's also more enjoyable to have a friend because we're also about enjoying the sport in many more ways than just racing. But essentially, if you want an elite bib, like, yeah, like basically you don't get to count in the top 10 if you want to bring a pacer.
How long have you felt that way?
I don't know. So I haven't had a pacer on all 4 of my wins. I've picked up guys in the
You
last.
had Tim
like,
in 17.
Huh?
You had Tim in 17, for example.
Yeah, I didn't finish.
Yeah.
So I always thought of like in 2016, 2017, I had picked up pacers, and I always thought it was going to be like a big mental boost and stuff. And for me, it was not like that. And maybe I was like burning matches really fast, going like, oh yeah, if I show up empty, it's okay. They'll just refill me mentally, and we'll just keep rolling. And like I never had that takeaway or anything. But I think last year was the first situation of being by myself, but being near another runner that had a pacer, and I'd prefer it if it was just Rod and I.
I mean,
You're
yeah,
stoked.
I'm definitely stoked. I feel the same way. I think if you're a golden ticket entry, if you're an elite entry in some way, shape, or form, not having a pacer, I think it's just a better pure competition. I also personally have felt like pacers have been a bit of a crutch for me. When were I by myself, I actually think I would have gotten more out of myself.
Yeah.
When Courtney passed me in 2023 without a pacer, I was like, damn, like, what am I doing? Like,
Look back at your pacer. What are we doing
yeah,
here?
how come we can't
Why
run
did
with
I
her?
bring you?
Yeah.
We're
No,
getting
but
smoked.
I think like what you said, it's the enjoyment part, right? Like the folks I've chosen to pace me are people that
Yeah.
I want to share those
It's how I
miles
got
with.
introduced to
Yeah.
Western States from the beginning.
It's really
I
cool.
sat in forest sale all day waiting for my guy to show
Yeah.
up, and well, that was my day, and never got to see the course. But yeah, this is actually full circle. First time coming to Western States since 2015 to spectate and not run. So
Jim, can I ask you a question? Like I've always thought it was interesting. You're like an evangelist about getting in El Dorado Creek, right? You're going to get in the creek when you run through there.
maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
And
I've heard-
boxing people out, too. So they
I've
can't
heard
get in.
Tyler Green maybe say like, Jim gets in the creek, like I get in the creek.
Yeah, I've
and-
heard about Tyler Green asking who's gotten in the creek
Creek,
before
yeah.
him, and then the aid station people are like, oh, well, just Jim, and then Tyler's like, ching, like,
Yeah, right.
Yes.
I heard that too.
yeah. I
That's
heard that
something
story.
I've thought about.
El Dorado
it's-
Creek's a bit of a scramble down and stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's a commitment, but
I think it's just fascinating that you're also getting in the river, like last year, getting in the river, not at Ruckacheckie Crossing, but before then, and that's
Yeah.
not something that's ever crossed my mind. Are
Yeah.
there other places you're like, oh, you can access the river
yeah,
there?
yeah. So there's like I can talk about memories where I've had with other people. So in general, last year was really interesting because it was my first time going through the canyons with other people. Like in general by Duncan Canyon, like I basically already have people on a full court press, and like something needs to kind of start going wrong, and more or less like I feel pretty solid and confident in this course that like generally doesn't at this point, but which is interesting to think about of like, okay, you're telling me like the pool table's already scattered how you want it by Duncan Canyon, and like that's pretty interesting because it's only a quarter of the race in. So 2021, Hayden Hawks and I went through Duncan Creek together, and that's one I full-heartedly believe to fully submerge because the climb up to Robinson Flat had a fire in the 2000s, and it hasn't really grown in really well, so it's pretty exposed, and you can get roasted there. And then last year, Rod caught me at Michigan Bluff, which was a little bit of a surprise, and essentially, so going through Volcano Canyon, there's a creek, and I remember Rod just kind of wanting to splash a bit, and yeah, in both instances, I'm like, oh, I'm with someone else. Do I just kind of fall behind and like get in my little secret spot, or do I like say, hey, you should do this? And then in both instances, I've said, hey, I reckon like I would get all the way under if I were you. And I've recommended that with them because ultimately, like, I don't know, I think still just hopefully the best man wins on the day, and hopefully you can still persevere by being a good person out there.
I love the Volcano Creek kind of blind sit down backwards and hope you don't take a rock in the tailbone and like lie down in the water.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's like another level unlocked of like, oh, Ruckachunky, you don't have to wait to there to get in the American River. There's that beautiful pool on the left that looks like there should be a rope swing there. Like I'm like envisioning all the spots along the river that I'm like,
there's
I
one
wanna get in
specific
that.
spot when other people look at it. I mean, it's partly why I don't. And at this point, especially because I think in 2021, I thought maybe I wouldn't come back to Western States. Of like 3 seemed enough and this and that, but then I've spent more time focusing on UTMB, kind of got to check that box a bit, but like now it's like, well, where do I refocus? And Western States still calls to me. So, but to a degree, it's like my GPX files have kind of become my own proprietary information of like, well, you could see where I dipped in creeks, or you could look at like legitimately my stopping time, my moving time, and more data. And then there's other ways to extract data off of Strava that even if you try hiding stuff, you can still extract data out of it. There's programs for it.
Jim, the Strava hacker.
The live stream, like rewatching that, there's information out there.
Yeah,
that you can
I've never
gather.
gone back and rewatched the live streams. I don't know. I think I should study even some of my old videos and interview stuff, because some of it reminds you of like some Ricky Bobby stuff of like, I was drunk when I said that. You could be second, third, fourth. Hell, I would be fifth. So there's some like wisdom and takeaways of like, yeah, that's pretty ridiculous and stupid, and there's a lot of other ways to do it now.
Why does Western call to you again?
To a degree, like for me, the course is maybe on the. Here, this will come. I'll explain it. I'll say it and then I'll explain
Please.
it. But the course is easy, in that I feel like I know how to survive in the canyons. I know how to take care of myself. I know how to prepare for it, and I think this course plays to a lot of my strengths, especially compared to other runners. Like I think how I can run it, I can truly like exploit someone like other runners in different places on the course, and so I feel, and at this point I have confidence here. So it feels like my home turf of where I'd like to race people. And yeah, that was a big idea of coming back this year to race it. And it's taken a long time to wrap my head around that I'm not going to be lining up. I'm not racing. It's a little easier at this point that like I'm not in shape to do it. I'm like at this point I got like a PRP injection on my knee and that full hard reset. And so I'm working back at that point, and it helped a lot to have a hard stop. There's no gray area. Whereas because it's been a tendonitis issue and essentially like a big gray thing, and basically caused from Western States last year. It was the same issue at UTMB last year. But I had hoped that I was taking care of it enough, and I wanted to race this field at Western States because instead of racing in other parts of the world or mountainous races or short races or something that like to race Keianti at Sierra Zanal or Zagama is not really a fair fight in the same way that I would hope that racing here at Western States would favor me. Like, good luck racing Keianti at Zagama. Like, it's pretty tough.
Do you think that a course like Western States is a nice overlap for you and Keianti?
No, I don't, because essentially I think it favors me more. I think it's more runnable. I've been here more recently. I've had more time on it recently. Like, I think it's pretty cool for him to come back because it's outside of his comfort zone. You saw how much it knocked him out of his comfort zone years ago, and he hasn't come back. He hasn't done a lot of runnable stuff. And even when you start looking at that era, like you have like Rob Carr getting him at URock and stuff, like there's good data points of, or say Dakota Jones getting a Metro Transvolcania, like a bit more runnable ultras. There's a bit more vulnerability than the Europeans lead to believe. And yeah, sorry, but kind of the reality in my opinion of it.
Do you? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Your relationship with Western States, going back to first visiting in 2015, I'm sure after 2016, you maybe had some like nightmares about that situation and thinking about it. How has this race evolved? And like, you know, through kind of grief, absolute highs, where do you find yourself with the relationship with Western States today?
Maybe there's more of a growing desire to want to run faster on it. You have more people talking about it, but I guess in some ways, like I still feel like I'm the only one that's gotten close to that on like execution. I've made other mistakes and I think I've been sloppy here. Like last year, I think was a big example of getting away with being quite sloppy and not feeling like I had my best race. But yeah, it's interesting. I look at things and yeah, there's parts of the course that have even changed that have added time, and that's kind of a bummer too.
What are some examples of like being sloppy from last year?
I mean, I had a lot of stopping time. Like if you look at my aid stations compared to Dan, Hayden, Rod, yeah, essentially, I think there was even like the question last year where I gave you a rhetorical answer of like,
That's for me to know and you to find out on race day.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I had in mind of like, I wish I were able to clean things up, but I think the day called for taking care of higher priorities. And essentially for me, unfortunately, that meant like, I think I walked around barefoot the morning of and stuff. And then I just threw my socks on and my shoes. And the only thing I can think is like, I just had debris on my feet from the beginning, and yeah, create a hot spot early and had to take care of that throughout the race. Otherwise, it would have like turned into a bit of a limp home rather than taking care of it. So there was a bit of a sacrifice of being able to execute enough. Still scratched my head on last year because I didn't look at splits at all the first time I heard that we were like running fast, because I thought we were like a bit behind at Forestdale. And then someone told me that I was 2 minutes off the record at No Hands Bridge. And that's the first time it sunk in of like, what? I had no idea. So I wasn't watching splits last year either. I would say last year was pretty much just by feel and just competing.
I have a couple questions, but I still haven't had a chance to talk with you about Keianti yet. And, you know, that to me was one of the greatest performances you've ever registered, from what I can tell. And it's interesting that you did that in the context of like these lingering knee issues. So did that say more about what you accomplished, or like did it say more about where Kilian and Vincent were on the day? Because like the delta there was insane.
Well,
and now you're not here at Western, but you had that at like,
Americans don't follow like ITRA or UTME index as much as the Europeans, but I would say Europeans are more aware that the score was pretty high.
That's what I'm saying.
I was going to ask just outright, like that was, you know, I think that was the highest score recorded, right?
Especially for an ultra.
Yeah.
Remy gets some, he does an uphill race. That's like an hour-long uphill race.
Yeah.
And basically uphill-only races kind of break the scoring on it a little bit. But
you think
it's also
that
Remy running uphill, which also breaks natural scoring.
Yeah. Do you think that score reflected that effort, though? Like, would you put that as your best ever race?
Well, in that one, like, actually Vincent started probably the first 3 hours. I think he was the most assertive, like, from the gun, really, like, pretty honest race. Like, Andreas Ryder, really, really good runner. 30 minutes into the race was like maybe an hour we could see his headlight behind us, but like basically he wasn't able to hang in the early, I mean, and it was also pissing rain and in the dark for the first 3 hours, like, and essentially it was up tempo pretty much from the beginning. And then Keianti is not really as advertised. I think we all showed up expecting golden, beautiful white roads of Italy, Tuscany. And basically, like, it'll have road sections that connect trails, but it's these, like, it feels like they're trails made by motorbikes, and it's chewed up, chunky, down trees at head height, and like it's more like just a chewed up forest trail, and really technical at times. Super big creek crossings all over. It was tough.
I mean, being there and witnessing the conditions that you guys ran in, running the shorter distance the next day, and like seeing the margin of victory, as well as like I think a lot of people just look at the Keianti result as, oh, it was Jim, then Kilian, then Vincent, but no one else was in that race, and that's just not the case. It was a strong field. You guys,
Andreas ended up dropping out, and then I'm not sure off the top of my head everything behind, but yeah, like Vincent ran Kilian to the line. Kilian had a bit of an issue during the race that got brought up, but at the same time, like I know Vincent and I have talked about it, and like it's not like we were clean through the race either or after. And basically that race knocked me back to a degree that I wasn't able to get healthy enough to start putting weeks together. Kind of when I finally got back to some volume, everything kind of unraveled for me pretty quickly. But,
how's your knee doing now?
it's good. So yeah, like early April, tried a cortisone shot in it. Didn't do anything really, I'd say. And then must have been sometime in May, got a PRP injection. So I'm still building back from that. And then that goes into 0-0, like no bike, no lifting, no running. You have to stop. And then when you start back up, it feels terrible. And then I would say I'm finally in the area where I have to start stretching my elasticity and see how it reacts. So it's kind of yet to be determined of when a timeline of coming back will be.
PRP is plasma-rich platelets, right?
Yeah.
That's an injection, and
it's actually a
typically
really
couple
simple
weeks.
process. It's about a 6-week recovery from
where
the
they say
injection. 2 weeks, nothing. And then, I've had 2 weeks, and then I think I did 5 miles the next week, and then 20, and I got 40 last week.
Congrats.
And then, we'll try to keep going forward, but we'll see if pain keeps popping up or not. But it's supposed to get better around the 6-week mark.
So when you made the decision to get the PRP, that was when it was like, okay, so states won't happen this year.
I actually made the decision to do it like a month earlier, but then the first doctor I had a consultation with thought I should just keep trying.
Oh, really?
And he wanted to get imaging again, and then you got to get in imaging, you got to get things read again, then you got to go back and talk about it again. So there were 3-4 weeks of all right, so we're gonna try, and I would say things it made running very, very much not fun and not enjoyable for those weeks of pushing through it and being like, it should break through, and like again they said it should be fine, and I kind of just describe it was unraveling, and mentally it was a long build basically from November to Keianti, and then kind of the success of Keianti came from really a lot of time on a treadmill through the winter. It makes me pretty antisocial. I just have to look out for staying in my comfort zone, not stretching too far and taking steps back. Just trying to avoid steps back and only little steps forward. And even still with that, I remember everybody was kind of around Flagstaff for Black Canyon week, and I had done just a regular loop around Eldon, and the run down Eldon super flared it up that week. And I was pretty disappointed with that. And so I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get to race. And at that point I had Keianti in mind, but then I was all of a sudden really hesitant to maybe say anything about Keianti. So it's made me much, much more recluse, which is pretty, to a degree, sad. And so right now, a big thing with not forcing things for Western States is because essentially after Western States last year, I didn't have a summer of running. And UTMB, even though I knew it wasn't best situation, it ended up being a lot more negative than I thought to have to drop out and not be able to try and to fail. Even though the writing was on the wall. And I'd say that was a big takeaway of not pushing through this year. I'd rather have small, healthy runs than a summer of not running again.
I want to come back to the UTMB conversation. Oh,
we got a Scott
Oh my
seat
God.
alert. I'm all set.
Okay. I'll explain the context for this offline, but we have to ask you this question from your boy Scott Jurek. Do you know your boy Scott Jurek?
Yeah.
Okay. Jimbo, which runner from Western States history would you most like to line up against and why?
Well, actually, I could have lined up against one of them, but I gotta throw myself in the battle of the gyms, right? Jim Howard and Jim King. I know Jim King's held the finish line tape once or twice when I've crossed it, but I mean, they had badass sunglasses and haircuts, and that'd be fun to throw down in that era. The course was short and fast.
That's a good battle.
I think it was 93 miles there. Yeah, I would want to throw down in the battle of the gyms.
That's amazing.
What's better than 2 gyms? 3 gyms. Yes.
Fantastic answer.
And then Jim Howard's racing this year at 70 years old, so that'll be cool.
Double knee replacement too, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Double handheld Gatorade bottles.
Yeah.
Stuff from training camp.
Yeah.
Like duct tape the little ones.
Yeah, I need to make it out to a training camp. I've avoided training camp since 2017. I contributed to absolutely going ham that week, and kind of part of my DNF that year, my only DNF. So because I also drove from wherever I was here, I think, I don't know, but drove 4 hours to San Francisco, did the Mount Tam thing that year, and then drove 4 hours back. And for my warm-up, I actually checked the route out because I knew the scramble. There was a scramble at the top that was tricky that I'd never seen, but I knew about it. So I did it as a warm-up, and then I went full gas for it. And then also, if you run through the course, a lot of the Strava comms on the course are from that training weekend.
That 2017 training camp was
every day
legendary.
was bang, bang, bang,
Oh my
bang.
gosh.
I was 27 years old, and I absolutely can't run a 27-year-old me version anymore. I got to save it for race day. I think my races are just as good, but training, would have been nice to have more opportunities back then.
Yeah. What else could you do at 27 that you can't do now? More. What are some more details? Going for that tan.
Oh, probably more drinking and then running the next day too. I just could bounce back from things just in general. I got to be more of a wimp nowadays, which makes me more serious. Sometimes, you're too serious, but you're more professional in general and this and that. But helps keep the blinders on because one of the biggest takeaways of 2016-17, I got to race a lot, but I was really missing winning the biggest races that I was trying. Mm-hmm. And especially 2017, DNF, Western States. I was at the front of UTMB through La Foulée with Francois. We got away from Keianti, kind of working together, and then just completely blew up, but then rallied back for 5th. And then that was, I guess, my first 100-miler was Western States 2016. Yeah, went off course. Then second 100 was 2017 Western States. Super snowy, high country. Gas. I was still on course record splits through just an absolute slop show. Lots of back of the packers didn't make it the first 50K. They all got cut off, so there's a super low finisher rate that year. And then it was pretty hot. And the winning time was over 16 hours. But Ryan Sands and Alex Nichols got in a late battle that year. Yeah. And then I actually went to Diagonal Day Food, and I'm I can do this 100-mile thing. Never heard of this race, don't care what it is, but I'm gonna smash 100 miles and just this is gonna be it, and everybody's gonna eat their words. And I got absolutely just smoked by that course. That was the day. So. Yeah, I haven't gone back to that one yet.
So maybe in the future.
Yeah, it's hard, technical, hot. I kind of said to myself, I need to speak better French if I want to go back. The island's even more French speaking than metropolitan France. So it's a hard place for foreigners to come in unless maybe you have. Sabrina Stanley's won there. Courtney's won there.
Debo had a tough day.
Yeah. So
Joe Grant, I think, had a decent
Sabrina
performance
Stanley's
there.
a really good performance because she would have
Katie
come
too,
in
and
as
Katie
an
won.
outsider, whereas Courtney has French Solomon, like taking care of a lot of details, and Solomon would be a huge advantage with that course of just operating in French culture. Yeah,
No, that's a good point.
I have to look at Simone right now.
All right, coming back to Western just for a second. And we talked about this with Rod too, but I think about the years where you've even been remotely threatened or challenged on the course. 2019, Jared Hazen kind of being on your heels, you not knowing where he is quite exactly. Last year with Rod, do you feel like this year, if you were on the start line, this would have been the most challenging year of title defense?
I mean, it sounds like people have like really ambitious goals this year. So like mentally, I don't have people maybe as cornered as years past. Keianti, like, yeah, I mean, he's the GOAT. So like, yeah, I think I've come up with a definition of like, if basically in ultra running, I would say there's Western States, UTMB. Outside of that, I think you're stretching of like, there's really good elite ones, but you need those on your resume. And if you win one, you're a champion. 1 or 2 is a champion. 3, you're a great. 5, you're all-time great. And then 10 plus, you're the GOAT status.
You're at 5, right? Cumulatively across the 2?
Yeah, I keep track of this, but I'm tied with Kilian and Francois. No, Francois has 4.
Who's number 1?
You got to go back. So, I mean, you got Scott with 7, got Antrason with 14, but they didn't take cracks at UTMB, and it kind of would be a big debate whether like you could throw comrades in there, because then you could have like Ellie Greenwood with, I think she's got 2 Western States, 2 comrades, and Trason's got a handful of comrades. But at the same time, and so yeah, it gets tricky because like I think like comrades happened this year, and most of the people I'm chatting with and this and that like had no clue, like, oh, comrades was last weekend, and it's globally not on the same level. Quality, history sort of things, it's worthy, but I think as a global community, we haven't put it at the forefront.
Is that a race you want to do?
I kind of say I did it in that I didn't do it, but the time mentally I had to give to that was probably 2020, 2021
project.
And like I only ended up back at Western States in 2021 because comrades got canceled for 2 years in a row because of COVID. So and I had the opportunity to give a pretty full gas 100K effort. Yeah, I missed the world record then, and by 11 seconds or whatever.
The damn fence bolt.
Bolt, and yeah, some.
So if we were to like say what your priorities are for the next few years, it's collecting more of these titles across Western and UTMB. Like that is the mission the next 2 to 3 years. Is that fair to say?
I think, yeah, every year I think I need to show up at a Western States or UTMB to do stuff, but then at the same time, like say like this year is not going to plan, obviously, and it's a bit of a pause of like there's other cool races. There's other places I do want to go, and it's like I don't want the sport to pass me by because I only focus at that. Like that's truly how our sports evolved past like 20 to 30 years ago. Is just, I mean, the opportunities, what we have to do to race and stuff, it's like really, really sick.
How you're living these days? Like you obviously had that 2-year stint in like becoming French, basically. Doing as the French do, getting ready for UTMB. And like you've been back in flag for an extended period. Like what does it look like this summer moving forward?
So we're here till Monday, then we're back for a few days in Flagstaff for the 4th of July stuff. It's also just problematic to try to go anywhere during that time. Everybody goes everywhere. It's just, yeah. And then excited to go out to Silverton. We're doing a Silverton trip, Hard Rock, gonna pace Ludo. So really stoked about that. Hard Rock and Silverton have a like special place, and I always kind of just say like I've just kind of grown with that race as a spectator, and it's a chance for me to just be a fan at the sport. I like going to races. Like I was really stoked to just race the Ascent and 46K at Broken Arrow, but I was pretty much a pig in shit being able to just do enough runs to get up on ridges I brought like, this is the first, for this trip and for Hard Rock, I got like a little plastic horn thing that I think is like the perfect thing to carry around the mountains because it's super light. And I had a bell and some binoculars and stuff that we took and watched the races. So I like doing that at Hard Rock. That's kind of how my relationship is with that race. I like cheering on everybody. I like seeing the same people come back every year, like the old people, just still being challenged by the course, and a bit of a family reunion with that because I've done that since 2015. I think I've missed it once or twice while I was in France. So excited for that trip, and then July, we'll be back in France by July 16th, and just in time for the Tour de France to come through Arèche, which is basically why we're going at that time. And then, so yeah, we'll watch the peloton come through. And then, but other than that, it's going to be just trying to get some consistency back before I can really line something up. Obviously, like whether it's something like Sierra Zanel, UTMB, World Champs, or if you got to keep pushing things back, like I don't know what the timeline's like to be at a level that I would like to be at to line up again. I don't know how long that's going to take, and if the process coming back has its own setbacks, and more or less, yeah, it's pretty disappointing for it to come back after Keianti, because I had maybe 3 weeks before Keianti where I thought I was like good, and with my physio, like we thought we were out of it, and yeah, that course beat the crap out of me. So yeah, here we are in the middle of summer doing it again, but yeah, it's kind of the priority.
Is it fair to say you would have to choose between UTMB or the Long Trail World Championships team?
At this point, I think it's going to be timing of health. I'm not sure. Like the advantage of the Long Trail is I have more time. So I don't know.
You're on the team.
Yeah, that's the first step, and it's kind of the awkward situation to be in. Like, I don't have a good answer for them, but or like say, yeah, it's also awkward to line up at one of the UTMB races and still do the World Trail Champs. But for me, I guess even like coming into this year, I was like, well, I'm not sure what I'll do, but I know I've done in 2023, I did UTMB, and then I was like training in between for the next month sucks, but then like I call it a super compensation effect from a 100-mile race, and I've had like really good vertical efforts that like Arèche has a bunch of local races that Americans never see the results of, but I like racing a lot in Arèche, and just as a valley, everybody likes racing a lot, and so we have our own VK that we do, and I've had some good results on that one. Just 2 weeks after UTMB, that's been pretty fun. A bunch of Skimo guys have done it in the past, so.
You did Nice after UTMB?
But I did Nice, and that went really well. Like during the race, the feelings were really good. In between was absolute garbage. And then the year before, taking fourth at UTMB, I came back in like a month and a half later and did Les Templiers, and that went fine. So I think I have enough history to try it. But yeah, you have to see every recovery is unique.
Kind of backing up a little bit, you had talked about spending a lot of time on the treadmill over the winter. The Wahoo treadmill looks pretty cool.
Yeah, so Wahoo sent me a treadmill last summer, but then basically I didn't get to use it. I mean, I kind of peg myself as an outdoor runner, but with the injury, it's a way to truly control everything.
Yeah, like how are you incorporating it into your training?
Dude, Brett wants one so bad.
Dude, they're pretty
I also
sick.
want one pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely sponsored by it, but I think the price point for the quality of it is pretty unmatched, and it has its own category of like, I mean, I think a lot of people get like Google-eyed over a Woodway, but the cost of it and the like to get one, it's a really weird ordering process that, I don't know, it's always put me off from jumping into that, but then lucky that one of my sponsors came out with a treadmill this last year. and it's pretty good. It's super heavy. I can't move it by myself.
That's my biggest.
Which is like a really good thing in a treadmill. Like you need a heavy treadmill. You don't want this thing to shake. I really like the paddle shifting. Actually, is one of the biggest things on it. Is just be able to change the speed and gradient with the paddle shifting. Is just like pretty game changing. I don't use the run free mode so much. If I do, I like it better for, say you got to do an hour on the treadmill, but you have no workout plan. The run free keeps you entertained to control the pace that way. It's entertaining, I would say. But for a workout, it's way too twitchy to get exact paces. So that's where the paddle shifting comes in. And then, I run Zwift on it. So I've had to be careful to try to keep my Zwift private. Because you can stalk people on Zwift too.
I want to do the Uber pretzel on foot.
Yeah, good luck.
But
Zwift
I
FKTs?
think Zwift's not up to date software and don't push the treadmill as far as it can push, because the treadmill can adapt gradient with the game, and essentially like Zwift needs trail running to get this treadmill like crank up, crank down, crank, and like it would be insane. But at this point, you're just doing like road cycling incline declines, and it's just not taking advantage of what the treadmill can do. And if it got like actual trails on Zwift, it would be
like a dangerous amount of.
It would be fun, yeah. And then you combine it with the run free. So like the goal is to stay in the middle of the treadmill, and essentially like, because then you'll go back when it goes up, and it's with the run free mode how it works, so that you're not just always on 8-minute pace, and then it goes up to 10%. You're like, and then you going back down. It goes to like -3, but it doesn't go as steep as maybe trail runners like would truly want it, but so how I've used it this winter has been really interesting in that it's been kind of boring to be pent up indoors and stuff on a treadmill, but I've kind of made a big Excel spreadsheet. So I'm at altitude in Flagstaff at 2,200 meters, 7,000 feet. And then I make a grade adjusted pace off of this, and I lean into all of it. Actually, in February, I think was the first ever like lactate testing I ever did. I went down to Phoenix to do that. So I did that at the ASU lab, and that was pretty. So yeah, data numbers look good. I should have ran a half marathon. But that was nice to have in February of just doing normal, boring running, and like, yeah, you go in for some testing and you're like, oh, numbers are nice.
Was it where you thought like you were?
Faster.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
Like,
What would you have run?
huh?
What would you have run? 62?
I could have challenged going under 61, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, shape was good. That's basically theoretical extrapolation, which
Ipso facto,
is not
those are
quite
factos.
fair. But like to get the hard spike, like, yeah, I was moving, it was going faster than I was expecting, and I haven't done workouts that fast, so I think if I did faster workouts, maybe I could push it. But typically, so I made an Excel spreadsheet with a bunch of paces, gradients, and basically it's got your band that starts to form. That's your kind of your sweet zone, but it's your threshold zone. And so a lot of times because the treadmill's boring, so you do a workout when you're on the treadmill. So that keeps you more occupied because you can change the paces and stuff. But I do about 30 minutes of threshold work on the treadmill, and I do random, essentially, times on and with recovery. I typically, say it's like if you're starting out, you probably do shorter intervals. As you progress, you'll do up to maybe 8 to 12 minute intervals, but you want to aim for about 30 minutes. And then as you get more advanced, you can start doing double T days, and then the volume starts to add up. So yeah, you get pretty dorky and get in the track things that way. And
Mike Smith
it was
disciple.
pretty fun. Yeah. So and then I so after doing the lactate testing, then I went and got a lactate meter and stuff, and testing that out. But then actually you guys are on the cutting edge of that time wear thing. Is pretty interesting.
Dude,
Yeah.
have you used it?
No, but it's gotten more interesting since you guys had it on your podcast thing, I think, or I don't know the last time you talked about it, but when you were talking about it, it was a shirt.
Yeah, now it's just.
Now it's a heart
clip
rate
it,
strap.
Yeah.
And so you'll wear a heart, but it's not out yet. But apparently, Wiesmann Lisa Pike is using it for the tour this year and stuff. So that could truly really revolutionize things. that could be the next big breakthrough. I think you guys are on it.
Dude, I love that we got a timeware reference in here.
Hell yeah.
Brett,
Jim,
that was you, man.
You
was a good
mentioned
internet
kind of some like privacy concerns both on Zwift and Strava. Like, is that the main reason you're Strava dark?
Oh, I mean, it's all started with injury.
Yeah, and uncertainty.
And it just goes to, injury and lack of confidence.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty open with, I have self-doubt, nerves, anything like anyone else goes through. And, like and even like the injury's been long enough. Like, I think even socially it's taking a hit on, like, I need to pause and get this better just so socially I feel like I can go run with friends and meet up with groups and stuff a bit more, because I'm just always taking care of only what I need to do. And like, I didn't start doing ultra running to train on a treadmill. I didn't start doing it to train by myself. Like, it was truly like a social thing that I needed at the time and found. So sometimes you need to pause, even if you're having good results and stuff. Like, pause. The enjoyment side of it is gonna long term have bigger effects, but also it has me excited because now I have this Excel spreadsheet and these gaps, and now we get into a rush, and now I can open this Excel spreadsheet thing into, like, I need to start adding gradients that go beyond beyond 15%, and then but our roads in Aresh are really awesome because they're pretty much 5 to 12%. And like, these are nice zones that I already have, and I can check my paces and stuff. So I think doing a bit more like road workouts up and then hit a nice trail down will be a new thing that I take to Aresh. Francois might fight me on it. He's the artist still and the purist.
I mean this in a very positive way. Are you aware of your level of attention to detail relative to other people in the sport?
Yes, and also I guess that's another reason just to keep things a little quieter, especially as people are catching on to things and people are trying more things. Essentially, they're trying to close the gap. I mean, part of the secrets is like, none of it's new. Like, sorry to break it to you. Like, I mean, I remember being called a liar on podcasts because I said I was doing 100 grams of carbs per hour.
You told Brian
in
Powell that in 2016.
15, 16, and people are like, no, his stomach can't take it. I'm like, well, I ate it. Like, I don't know. It might sit in there, but I ate it. And it's just like, that felt good. And you know what? Like, I actually don't reach for 120, 150, 180. Like, you look at the triathletes and, or the Unbound guy, the guy that won Unbound did like 190 grams an hour. And it's like, I'm not going to try that.
Dude,
especially at Western States. I think you're asking for a disaster to happen pushing things. Like, I don't think it's worth the risk for, like, if you can get enough, I don't think it's worth the risk. It's too hot. Like, heat does weird things.
I've got one last question on the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay. In your like threshold zone, are your flat paces the same as your GAP adjusted paces, or are you like found that you're stronger at one versus the other when you stay in that sweet spot?
My threshold will go up really fast, so it's not quite perfect in higher gradients.
Okay.
And I think that plays to reality. I
Like
think
this
as you're
course.
getting 12 plus degrees, you see a bigger separation between athletes. And like Devil's Thumb, you hit 22%. Like last year, so here we'll tell some stories involved with this. Of last year, I blame Hayden and Dan running together for the whole race coming back together. Because essentially I was out front and those guys were chasing it felt like they were chasing super hard because they wouldn't let the gap go out. And essentially last year I was just trying to get a gap on everybody and get everybody just to watch each other. And then like if I could get 10 minutes, like I'm like, all right, I can protect 10 minutes. And I've been in that situation before with like, it's a hellish day, but like Jared behind me was a really, really hard day, but I know I was able to fight through and like do pretty well. So having that experience was really interesting, but Hayden and Dan like were like keeping the gap super close, and they passed me at dusty corners, which in general, like that there's like a fire road that's a half marathon essentially of descent that's super fast. And I mean, like you're literally in the middle of Western States running 6 flat pace of like and you look at the world record for 100 miles on flat, going back to a spreadsheet, it's about 6:20s, something like this. Like, you're technically running too fast. Something has to give eventually, but you're essentially making a push. And then, but they passed me, and it took me a little bit to catch back up. And when I caught back up to them, we were descending into a swinging bridge, and to me, they like slammed the brakes. They're like, "Oh no, you can go ahead." I'm like, "Me, go ahead. You guys are the ones who caught up. Like, you set the pace then. Like, go ahead." And then basically, it was just absolutely sandbagged down to the swinging bridge. And then by the bottom of swinging bridge, Dakota caught us, Rod caught us, Caleb was right there. And essentially, we saw more people. I looked back, and there were more people lined up descending. I'm like,
So that
look
descent
what
was
you guys
slow.
did.
Huh.
You brought everybody back into this. And then so my goal going up Devil's Slum was actually to try to split them. And I got Hayden to chase me a bit more. So Devil's Slum is an average of 22% with however many switchbacks. It doesn't really matter. But
You know, though.
Yeah, how many?
39, I think it's 38, 39, depending how you count, like an elbow, whether 90 degrees is really a switchback or not.
Yeah, which one's the questionable 39th?
Yeah.
It's the 14th, please.
But I got Hayden to chase me a bit, and essentially that split him up, and I think that kind of opened up the race a bit. But then I was surprised because like I ended up like so there were at least 5 of us together at the bottom. I hit my water spot, let everybody pass, and then blitzed the climb. And I think like Keianti has the talent to do this too, of like on 22, like really put people into problems. But the thing is, like Rod showed, like be patient, don't worry about the climb. And then the way Rod was running descents last year was pretty next level. Super, super strong. I think that's where he had his biggest advantage. But because it just felt like following him on a descent, it was like, we're pushing. But yeah, he caught me by Michigan Bluff. So then it became the duel with Rod from there. But until that point, it felt more like a duel with Dan and Hayden. So I had to deal with 2 people there. And then by the time like Rod catches me just 10K later, now it's him with a friend. And it's like with Chris and Tim at different points. And it's like, like it's just a 2-on-1 day, and I'm not enjoying it. So whatever I thought about Pacers, now I'm cemented that no Pacers should be the way.
Yeah.
But 22% is enough to put people. So I've also gotten into vertical racing and stuff, and essentially physiologically, like it's when you compare weight or in aerodynamics and cycling, like weight is like this squared thing that climbs like this, but aerodynamics, it goes in like this. So the faster you go, the more aerodynamics matter. So basically on a gradient, essentially the higher gradient you go, just the energy expenditure, lactate threshold, everything like physiologically, like just puts you into absolute maxes if you keep trying to push. And essentially, so life gets interesting above 15%. And that's where you find like certain people, Remy, Keianti, have this talent. Yeah, maybe me to a degree. And essentially like you, especially in ultra, you can use it as an attack, a weapon sort of thing. But if you're patient, it's still an ultra. So Western States is still relatively flat.
That's our sports death zone. Above
I need to
15%.
spend more time above 15%.
Yeah.
I don't want to, though.
I love it.
Well, yeah, see,
all of
yeah,
a
just
rush is
Dude,
above
just take some
20.
oxygen with you.
Yeah.
A rush is hard. Just a rush, thank goodness, isn't at altitude.
Oh, man.
But the challenge there, it's more about the lungs, and it's more about muscularly, like totally flip. So I'll go to the San Juan. San Juan's gets relatively steep, and especially if you get more off-trail stuff, which is how you get the coolest trails. It's a long burn. It's total out of breath stuff. But then you switch and go to a rush, and it completely changes.
When you have that interaction with Dan and Hayden at Swinging Bridge, and
No words were spoken, so
Well,
this is
well,
all just
but-
a dialogue inside my head.
but
You're
like,
making up this
maybe
combo.
it's
I made
body
up this
language.
story just to get hungry.
and maybe it's body language, but like, is that a sign to you that like they're not ready to win this race and like meant like psychologically?
No.
Yeah.
I think both Dan and Hayden have shown that they're winners. Like they win races left and right internationally. So yeah, Dan and Hayden are winners. So yeah, you look at Keianti. he's a killer. Essentially, like he doesn't lose. So he's super unique. There's other guys that Vincent gets to just roll under the radar this year. I don't know how. Like, how do you win?
Is he the
UTMB?
most underappreciated UTMB winner of all time?
Well, he's the
Marco
most-
Oma.
Dude, his story's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Vincent and I go way back. We have pictures together. 2000. He was here helping my crew in 2021. Yeah, he's coming out to Silverton with me in 2017, 18 sort of years when we were camping together and stuff. So we go back. But no, he's good. It's good for him that he gets to relax a bit. There's quite a few people that get to not have the pressure. I mean, I think you have David Roche putting himself out there automatically, lots of pressure, especially like new people to the sport that he's been able to reach. Like they all of a sudden like, well, he's gonna win, right? And like maybe not. Like so many things we don't know. But he has been in the sport for at least 12 years. So like someone like me, I know him pretty well, and it'll be interesting. I think he's got a new mindset on him, but we'll see. Keianti, obviously, like he'll never go under the radar. Like absolutely impossible. Doesn't matter what he's doing. He's a favorite. Like so you can't count him out. And then ultimately, I think you have the top returners from. Oh, another big one under the radar. I've skipped him already. Adam. Like come on, he's the most recent winner, and like one thing at Western States is like if you've won, you're more likely to win again. And then the top returners from last year, like you look at the times from last year and the temperatures, I still scratch my head. Like the times that we ran last year just doesn't make sense. And even my feelings out there, it didn't make sense. Like I tried way harder when I ran 14:09 than last year, of just gas, and I felt like I was flying. Last year felt chill in a lot of ways.
That's interesting.
But I think as a sport, and especially like more runnable races like Western States, we're still yet to see how some technology stuff destroys the record books or not.
Do you think a course record's happening on Saturday?
No.
How come?
I think people have a disconnect of how fast that is. It's just the most simple way to say it. So I don't think a course record is happening. I think people need to find 30 minutes to run faster for that to be in the conversation. Like even Rod in reality has to start searching for quite a bit of time.
He's got to find 14 minutes.
Yeah, where like I have my own proprietary GPX files and
Release the files.
like my moving time is well under 14. So like I can say I can run under 14 because if I clean my feet before I start and I take care of things, like I should be able to reduce my stopping time to something competitive because like Rod, but
Do we know what Rod's stopping time was last year?
11 minutes.
Yeah, so that's like
So like
What was
Dan,
yours?
but that's my information.
Oh,
But
you can watch the live stream and add it up.
Yeah.
I think I'm closer to like 33 minutes.
okay.
It's quite
That's
a bit.
insane.
So essentially like but Dan and Hayden also had very, very competitive. I think all three of them were under 13 minutes of stopping time.
Yeah, so there's not like margins they're finding there. They have to find it.
Yeah, like if you cut out the stopping time and like, all right, we're still 24 minutes, 25 minutes to go. Like, what the hell do we do? It's still the same temperature, or still like, I mean, it's potentially going to be 3 to 6 degrees over average temperature. Of average in Auburn that they recorded is 89 degrees, which I think we all lose that concept of like how hot it feels out there, and then the average is technically only 89. But I mean, I remember being on the course sitting around in 2015 when Rob Carr won, and I think the recorded temperature that year was 89, and it was like, no, I think Forest Hill was reading 95. Like, it was hot as hell, and
Cal Street probably even hotter.
yeah, so yeah, the temperatures that get recorded are interesting, but the actual story behind the day is a lot more than just that, and there's other numbers I pay attention to, but that's actually more secret. Yeah.
So there were some rule changes this year, and I know you've already stated that you don't really think pacers should be at the elite level, but with a change to no accompaniment from Bath Road up to Forest Hill.
So Western
with
States has a
change-
problem. We found out last year, essentially, like I had crew, Rod had pacers, and crew and pacers have different rules. We found that they were written differently. And like essentially I had my brother come down that was part of the crew, and the rules that we were reading for crew were a lot more vague and open to allowing a bit more help of stuff. And essentially like perhaps we should be cutting the 8 or just open up those sections fully, and people are allowed to put on an ice vest at the bottom of Bath Road and run through 2 miles with an ice vest, which has been used and not disqualified and stuff. And like it gets to a very I think it's at a point where things need more clarity.
And I think that clarity has been resolved. It went in the other direction. It's going in the direction of you can receive aid at one spot during the Forest Hill aid station, and similar to the Alpe d'Huez, like if spectators are throwing water on you, that's fine, but like actually designated aid assistance along the Forest Hill Road is a no-go.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Because I think last year there was a incident that essentially was, I would say, innocent on my part, but looking at it in retrospect, I felt a bit bad because I didn't realize there was a discrepancy in how rules were written.
I didn't know, but I'm not trying to
it was interesting.
call you out on something. I was just interested in your opinion on those clarifications on, the climb up to Green Gate as well, like not having any accompaniment there. It seems like the rules have
the
been
climb
put into
solo by
place.
yourself is tough.
Yeah, to provide some clarity.
I mean, the other part about pacers too is like I don't trust pacers in that, like for the most part, pacers with their runners are solo by themselves, and it's just their own integrity out there. So like I know other stories going way back of pacers help physically
doing something.
yeah. So you just get rid of the ambiguity of it.
Ambiguity.
There we go. Thanks.
Yeah, I wasn't going to try that one.
With the rules, and essentially no pacers, only like Comrades has a rule of stand to hand. You cannot move to hand anything. So there's like, you have one station per aid station. You have 2 miles to set it up, but you don't get to meet them at Bath Road, run through them with Forest Hill and stuff. Like, but then again, like Forest Hill, when I think about it memory-wise now, there's a lot of years where it's pretty cool to have some photos. And like, I have some of my best friends, Vincent, my brother, James Bonnet, like going way back, like running with me down Forest Hill. Although I think 2016 I was running solo. I don't know.
Yeah, that one was kind of fast through Forest Hill.
I think I was more in showboating days. Because I think 2016, 17, I was still dropping cameraman. I'm like, oh, this is going to be sick when they upload it. And just like absolutely rip it during the race.
Take that, Jamil.
And I remember like dropping some people, I mean, like finally, like I'm like, oh, I'm going to feel that later. Like that one, we went a little fast on that. And they're a little more fit. Like they have more fight in them than I thought they would.
Jim, I want to be respectful of your time. 3:05. Are we doing okay?
Yeah,
What time
we
do you
got
have to
time. We got some time.
Okay. Did you have a follow-up?
I need a drink though.
Hydrate. You gotta hydrate.
Yeah. One thing, if you're out here spectating or fanning or crewing or anything, you got to take care of yourself. The number of people not in the race that I've seen fall apart at this is just insane.
Well, I mean, this
Everyone
guy
falls
pacing
I
Caleb
got
last
dropped
year.
by Caleb 3 miles into our section into Cal Street.
You picked him up in Forest Hill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finn didn't make it to Cal 1.
It's because I had a burger at Michigan.
That's not a
Bluff
very
and
good attempt.
Killed myself.
Dude,
That's what happens when you throw a Cocodona runner in there.
Yeah.
See, here's the
This
thing.
is a running
Here's the
race.
thing, live stream. Jim is on record saying he makes fun of things until he does them. So we'll see Jim in 2 or 3 years at Cocodona.
The most famous one for me in my own running career is making fun of the steeplechase. And sure enough, senior year, I'm like, I got to get to nationals. And so I picked up the steeplechase.
Brilliant.
So you don't think, well, okay, I shouldn't say you don't think. You don't think a course record's happening. But like someone like Vincent, I would assume he's writing optimistic splits for sub 1409.
Or
People
do
will do that,
splits matter when you're trying to just win? Like, what comes first?
I think this year potentially competition could put people into some interesting splits early. I mean, I think I was looking at it, like the free trail split archive is pretty awesome. But there's some things about it of like, yeah, switchbacks that have been added around like mile 10 or 12 that cost like up to like almost 15 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they got added in like 2018, 19.
Oh, no wonder Howe's split to Red Stars so fast.
Yes.
That's why?
Yes, I've tried to chase that split because I have most of the splits I've been able to hit. And then I'm
That
like,
one's
how am I not
always-
getting it? But
I've
then
always wondered
you know
about
how I
that
found out about it? It was Strava heat maps, and you have your own personal heat map. And there's a forest, like I see just mostly zigzags. I'm like, huh. But then I have some streaks that go through it, like straight through it. And then I check and like, yeah, you can look at back on other older people's runs from 2014, 15, and it goes straight through. And I'm like taking the thing of like, technically sub 14 should have happened by now.
The snow year also changes things. I'm just thinking about coming into Red Star Ridge. There's a lot of contrived switchbacks, like right in that section too, as you come into that aid
A
station.
bit, but
And
snow years,
2023, like we were just looking for flags.
yeah.
Like those switchbacks weren't there. In the
That was
same
my
way.
2017 year because the snow's at a point where you put a flag in, and then once the sun comes out, the flags just go boop, and they just disappear. And I remember getting lost a bunch in the high country in 2017. But I think the last time they did a snow route year was 2011, like Killing's year. Yeah, it was a high of 80 degrees and snow route year, so they didn't do the ridge. They stayed low and fast. Yeah. Yeah, they don't talk so much about it. I think they did this. Yeah, there might have been 2010 they did a snow route year too. But that one really changes things because you just get a zip line across on a fire road. But Craig tries not to do that.
Yeah, I was even
He's
just
got like a
thinking
big
of-
like personal thing not to do the snow route.
I was even thinking of just snowy years on the normal route.
Yeah,
when,
snow high country definitely beats people up.
switchbacks kinda
2000 yeah,
disappear.
everybody's splits were super slow to start in 2023, right?
Yeah, we
Yeah, Tom's year. But the thing is, when you have a high of 82 or 80, the time all comes back. Like it just starts rolling. Or like look at Timothy Olson's times of just like it's slow, but it's just this building wave, and then you just get to run downhill in like good temperatures late in the race, like make a huge difference.
Do you think it's like just a total dream for people to be calling their times or like building paces
it
before
does-
knowing the temperatures?
Yeah. It
You
makes
did it at Tarawera.
absolutely no sense to Tarawera was dumb luck, but essentially, like, no, I can spot some courses and be like, yeah, this is what I should run. Like Keianti worked out to be about what I should run, and I remember telling Vincent that because we both showed up. We met up 2 weeks beforehand to run through the course, and it was just pissing rain, except for like 3 days before the course. So
March was rainy
once
in
UTMB
Italy.
shows up, it's all nice and stuff. But we were super lucky to see the course like in really rough condition because it was like, whoa, that we need to maybe redo expectations. But it ended up holding pretty true for most of it. I think I fell off the pace a little bit, but also there's a different strategy that can happen as well when you have Vincent and Kilian chasing you of like, let's just keep them relatively at the same pace behind me, and like more time is not necessarily more better. It's just more risky, and risks happen, and sometimes they don't pay off. So more time is not always better. As you get closer and closer to the edge of what your own personal capabilities are, right? Like we're gonna see people pushing to chase my times that maybe they would be better off backing off a little bit and actually run faster by running a percentage of my splits. But you'll see DNFs out of it, I think, or lawn chair sits in Forest Hill. Fear the white lawn chair in Forest Hill. But no, I think my biggest lesson in 2017 was, take what the course gives you. That's the best advice I can give to anyone at Western States. Like, don't force it. Take what the course gives you on the day, because there's pockets of heat, there's pockets of humidity. You might get a cloud just in the right spot. Like, it's a nice area to track the weather because it changes quite dramatically. And I'm just really happy that Western States wasn't ran this last Saturday, because everybody would have been going through under 13 hours. It was snowing out here.
Yeah, that was pretty
was the
wild.
I think the highest,
60.
in
Like,
Auburn was
yeah,
like
it's just
below
insane.
70.
Under 13. I think it would have just been like.
No,
usually a little red
so
the
if they
whole while.
changed Western States to a different time of year, because I think that conversation kind of came up during COVID, that would have been pretty disheartening as well. In the fact that, like, you look at Francesco's time on a lot of overlapping of the course.
Mm-hmm.
I think his time in the 100K extrapolates to something like if he could keep it up for another 40 miles and plus 50 more degrees of Fahrenheit, it would be like a 1245 Western States. So, like, temperature is a massive, massive factor.
A lot can change between now and race day. Who is, as it stands right now, who is your pick in the men's field to win this race on Saturday?
Yeah. No, I know coming here you'll ask me that, so I'm just going to avoid it. It just feels like I have too many friends and this and that, and if I say one person or the other, I'm rooting for many people at the same time.
Who's in the category? Like, who are a few names that are in the category of capable to win on Saturday?
I think first and foremost you have to take, because I almost made a thing about this, but the top finishers from last year, and then Adam being the last. So Rod, Dan, Caleb. With Dan and Caleb just having an absolute fire start to the year in their opening races of A races for the beginning of the year with Tarawera. I think Dan ran really, really well. Caleb ran really, really well at Trends, Gran Canaria. I think what Rod did last year is just, you can't overlook it. He should be ready to roll. And I think experience pays so much on this course. And then I think Adam won in 2022. I think you can't overlook that. And then also, again, kind of going back to these like big win things, Killian's a multiple UTMB winner. He might have won Western States a while ago, and I think in a vastly different landscape of the sport. But nonetheless, he found a way to come back and win and make adjustments. So imagine the number of adjustments now he's had the last 14 years. Like, he's training completely differently nowadays. I mean, we all are adapting new things that are sometimes working, but at what point does just a good old raw volume pay off in an ultra? And I think, like, a good classic, like when you think cycling monuments, like, the courses prove to be the courses still. I think Western States will still prove to be the course. So the guys that have had the best results, I think, will end up finding themselves at the front again. It's really hard to come in here as a new guy, whether it's, say, David Roche, Hans Troyer, Dan Green, like, and come in and challenge up front. Like, you get surprised a lot by the first year. The amount of things I had go right in 2016 is pretty insane.
Yeah.
And then that one wrong thing.
Yeah, I still
Yeah.
had one thing of, like, the best way I can describe it, like, whether the marking was there or not, I can't tell you, but I say mentally I was not cognitive enough at the time to identify a left turn. Because there's also controversy, like, legitimately, whether there was any marking put up yet, because they still weren't expecting someone to come through. But at the same time, all I know is, like, I was just too much in the zone, just trying to survive, that I did not have anything register, like, hey, there's the left. And, like, mentally that didn't register anything I missed. And before I knew it, I was well off when I realized what went on, and kind of just gave up at that point, which I should have at least kept eating and drinking, because by the end of getting to the track, I was in just the worst shape I've ever been at the end of an ultra.
Oh my gosh.
You were just like done.
Because
You
I
found that
just,
point.
I stopped
You're just, like,
drinking and
settling.
eating, and I just walked from there to the finish.
It's a long
And
walk,
by the
so-
time I got there, I was just, like, so destroyed.
was it, yeah, was
So,
it the recovery
yeah,
from
like,
that?
you don't know when a small mistake's going to be pretty catastrophic, and not a good way to look at it. But you could have your splits and start trying to hit splits. I tried that in 2017, and that one blew up in my face too. So I mean, enough fireworks blowing up in your face, you're like, I think I know what's gonna happen on this next one, and it was really like 2018, like just giving up control of my ambitions for the race that came to the breakthrough.
Yeah.
How about the women's race?
Women's race, I think still experienced. So Fujao, Esther, wants to beat Marianne Haugen's coming in, but she's on a long recovery. You have Riley coming in. They're very fast. Also really smart to sign with the company that they had been running with before. So that works out really good. You wonder if you're going to see a marathon shoe on them or not, or if Riley is going to stick to a trail shoe. I think that'll be something interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Puja's run last year is quite phenomenal, and I think being Chinese, she gets to go under the radar a bit. So, we just put a priority on our Americans and this and that, but in reality, like, international athletes take notice and they want to win too, pretty bad. So, it'll be a fight.
Well, Jim, we can't thank you enough for your time. Always a pleasure to chat. Before we go, we have to thank our partners, Norda, Goreware, NAC, and Raid for making all this possible. Last word, anything you want to say to listeners, viewers, before we go?
Not a lot. Stay tuned. I'll try to get some stuff out of what I'm doing behind the scenes. Been pretty quiet lately just because it's been hard to deal with all the injury stuff the last year. Basically happened from Western States last year, and in some ways it feels good to justify it that it happened from a race or a Keianti, but in other ways it doesn't make it any easier or any better. But it's not been the easiest to handle, and I preferred, instead of talking about it, to hopefully just get better and better at bringing good news and fun things than less fun things.
Launch the fireworks in that direction, but not this way.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, hey, appreciate you, man. Can we do a quick group photo before we go?